At 10:39 p.m. on October 9th, 1963, a chunk of mountain the size of a small city broke away from a slope in northern Italy and slid into a lake. In under a minute, that lake was gone. In its place was a wave nearly as tall as the Eiffel Tower, and it was heading straight for the people sleeping in the valley below. By the time the water settled, an entire town had been wiped from the map. And the strangest part of this story isn't the wave. It's that almost everyone who needed to know it was coming knew. In the 1950s, Italy was rebuilding. The post-war economic boom needed electricity, and northern Italy's mountains were full of narrow valleys, perfect for hydroelectric dams. An energy company called Sade picked a site in the Dolomites, a deep gorge between two mountains, Monte Toc and Mount Salta, carved by the Vajont River. It was almost too perfect, a narrow throat of rock that could hold back an enormous reservoir behind a comparatively small dam wall. Construction began in 1956. When it was finished, the Vajont Dam stood 262 meters tall, at the time one of the tallest dams on Earth. A concrete arch so thin and elegant that engineers considered it a masterpiece of design. There was just one problem. The mountain on one side of that reservoir had a history nobody had taken seriously enough.
Monte Toc's name is almost a joke in hindsight. In the local dialect, Toc roughly means rotten, a nickname locals had used for generations because the slope was known to be loose and unstable. Geological surveys during construction found signs of an ancient, massive landslide already baked into that mountainside. Engineers noted it, and then they built the dam anyway, betting that with careful monitoring, they could manage it. At first, the bet seemed to pay off. As the reservoir filled in 1960, a landslide of about 700,000 cubic meters slid into the lake, but the water absorbed it without damage. Engineers treated this as proof of concept. Fill slowly, watch the slope, and if it moves too fast, lower the water and let it settle. For a while, that strategy worked. But through 1963, something changed. The slope wasn't just moving anymore, it was accelerating. By September, technicians were recording ground movement of several centimeters a day. Cracks were opening across the mountainside, some large enough to see from a distance. Animals reportedly began abandoning the slope entirely. Local mayors didn't need engineering degrees to know something was wrong. The mayor of the village of Urto published a public warning urging residents to leave. The mayor of Casso, on the opposite shore, posted his own notice about the risk of a wave. Few people left. Many had heard warnings before. Some had nowhere else to go. By early October, the numbers were no longer subtle. The slope was creeping at up to 20 centimeters a day, a rate that, to a trained geologist, doesn't say the mountain might fail. It says the mountain is failing, right now, in slow motion. Engineers tried to lower the reservoir to relieve pressure on the slope. It didn't matter. The mass of rock and soil above the lake, later estimated at 260 million cubic meters, had already passed the point where water level made any difference. It wasn't going to slide because of the reservoir anymore. It was simply going to slide. On the evening of October 9th, workers and residents in the area noticed the ground groaning. Some described hearing it, a low sound, like grinding, coming from inside the mountain itself. At 10:39 p.m., it let go. In roughly 45 seconds, the entire north face of Monte Toc, a mass of rock large enough to fill a valley a mile and a half long, dropped into the reservoir at highway speed. There was nowhere for that much water to go except up and over. The impact threw a wave more than 200 meters high across the gorge, drowning the village of Casso on the opposite ridge before crashing back down and pouring directly over the top of the dam itself. Here's the detail that still stuns engineers today. The dam held. That elegant concrete arch, built to hold back a lake, survived a wave that went over its crest with barely a scratch. It remains standing to this day. But holding back the wave was never really the point anymore. The water didn't need to break the dam. It simply flew over it and dropped into the valley on the other side, where the town of Longarone and several smaller villages were sleeping. In under 15 minutes, the flood had come and gone. What it left behind was almost nothing. Longarone, a town of several thousand people, was gone. Roughly 2,000 people died that night, most of them in their homes, with no warning beyond whatever they'd already chosen to ignore.
In the investigations that followed, one fact became impossible to avoid. This wasn't a natural disaster in the way the public initially assumed. The geology had been flagged, the movement had been measured, the warnings had been written down, dated, and signed. Several engineers and officials from Sade and the Italian government were eventually tried in court, and some were convicted of negligence. But no verdict could undo what had already happened. Today, the Vajont Dam still stands, intact, functional, almost eerie in how undamaged it looks. Below it, the scarred slope of Monte Toc is still visible, a permanent gray wound on the mountainside. It's become a case study taught in engineering and geology programs worldwide, not as an example of a structure that failed, but as an example of a warning that was measured perfectly and believed too late. The dam did exactly what it was built to do. It was everything around it, the mountain, the decisions, the timeline, that the world got catastrophically wrong.
Sometimes the most dangerous disasters aren't the ones nobody saw coming. They're the ones everybody did.